Hey everyone, it's Lorenzo and happy holidays. Chris and I want to give you a special gift this year as a way of saying thank you for all of your support, all of the questions, all of the downloads, and all the sharing of the podcast. This special gift is the audio book version of my book, Vision, Clarity, and Support. We've broken it up into multiple podcasts that will be less than 15 minutes each, so you can hear parts of the book throughout your day. So thank you again for all of your support, and please enjoy.
Part 3. Support. Talk the talk. Walk the walk. The workplace now has a sense of belonging and ownership. Employees understand how their behaviors and attitudes drive the bigger business. We've taken the time to dig deeper and recognize personal goals and expectations. Now, it's time to put words into actions. That's where our third pillar, support, comes into play. Our company vision is established. Expectations of employees and leaders are clear. And now we're ready to practice what we've preached. Providing support for them now starts with understanding what support is actually needed. We've taken the time to ask our employees, what do you need from us? What do you expect from leadership? What happens next depends on the individual. It's important to recognize support looks different for different people. Here's what it's not. Sending them off blind, a trial by fire, you could say. They should know what they're doing. If they're any good, they'll figure it out. I think they're smart enough. They've been here long enough. I don't need to spend time teaching them. Support is not defined by the leader. The idea that support is passed down through legacy and personal feelings is outdated. Let's retire it and provide support based on what is actually needed. Before, those with the most knowledge were the leaders. They often held the highest positions. Modern access to information has changed this dynamic, causing the newer generations in the workforce to need more than knowledge, of which many will already possess. They need the why. They need to feel engaged and understand how their values align to the job at hand. Failure is an option. The importance of support is that it encourages people to try, fail, learn, and try again. A prerequisite to leadership is being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, when people are pushing themselves to do things they've never done before, learning new skills, sharpening experiences, working on competencies and strengths. They tend to make mistakes. They may approach something wrong, misinformation, or let emotion get in the way. These things naturally happen. Support demonstrates an understanding that it's okay to make these mistakes, as it's how learning takes place. They're more likely to try, take on challenges, push back, and be receptive to feedback when they know leadership has their backs. Support in action. I recently went for a haircut and shave. After trying a few different barbershops, I've come to have a good sense of those who are professional and worthwhile and those who are still figuring things out. It's good to have options. Since it was last minute, however, I walked in and accepted the first available associate. She sat me down, and we went through the typical barber experience. I've noticed the experienced professionals act similarly, showing off the brand new razor, prepping the hot towel, describing the steps as they do them. She didn't. I could tell she was still learning. Meanwhile, in the chair next to mine, I could hear that barber subtly mention things to her. Other barbers wring out the towel and check it with the back of their hands. She was coaching her, but not in a critical sense. Instead, she was non-confrontational, sharing best practices and tips, and the young woman responded positively. I've never thought of that. Thank you. I could tell this was normal protocol for the woman next to us, as my barber reacted so naturally. My barber, however, was still uncomfortable. They do neck massages at the end, and as that didn't go so well either, I wasn't feeling so comfortable myself. Our next chair barber suggested changing the positioning of my chair. It was tested with enthusiasm, and my barber and I both saw immediate improvement. The woman next to us could have just as easily ignored the situation, letting my barber figure it out for herself. Instead, she provided in-the-moment support that vastly improved the experience. As the customer, I certainly was grateful. I share all this because, while it was far from the best shave I've gotten, I decided to email the general manager about my experience. I let them know I appreciated the feeling of their establishment and kindly explained my barber needed a bit more training. She wasn't bad, but for future clients, some improvement would help. Finally, I shared how much I liked the way our next chair barber provided tips throughout, correcting her in a way that showed excellent leadership and support without making me, as the client, wonder, what the hell am I doing trusting this person? It was as simple as that. Later, I received a phone call from the general manager, who ended up being none other than our next chair barber. "You must lead people," she said. We talked on leadership and support, and she made it very apparent that she's a leader who aims to help her employees. I have no doubts the barber who did my shave has become exceptional in her workplace. Support can be as simple as reminding a barber to test the temperature of a hot towel. It can be more complex by including role-playing or implementing new training resources. What's important is that it appropriately fits the employee who needs it, encourages growth, and leaves that employee feeling more empowered than they did before. Stay connected and committed to growth. Take a step back and ask multiple times, what do they need? Break the mold of previous leaders. Many times the answers will be the same: transparency, honesty, constructive feedback, and accountability. I found time plays a role as well. They want time to absorb information and new feedback and work through it down to an emotional level. Then there's the follow-up. They may not request this, but from my experiences, the teams I've helped build, I've seen the greatest success from continuing the conversation. Where are we with the things we've already discussed? Is there anything else needed? Consider their reactions and take them to heart. The prior two pillars are more cut and dry. Here's how we create a vision. This is how we maintain clarity across the workplace. Our third pillar isn't as simple, as it caters more to the intricacies of the human spirit. We have to recognize when something is needed, even when it is not requested verbally. We have to see when the support we are giving is not enough. Sometimes it must be up to our intuition and discretion to recognize when a new form of support is needed. Other times, our commitment to open dialogue and employee empowerment will prove enough for them to approach us with new ideas. Either way, we can't sit idly by. It's our duty to provide. At the surface, support relies on these 3 steps. 1, discovery. Find out what's needed. 2, follow through. Provide that support. 3, follow up. Check back to make sure it's enough. When young leaders take on a new job, I tell them up front, I expect them to make mistakes and experience bumps along the road. They're trying to do their best job using their intuition and prior experiences. The mistakes they'll inevitably make will confirm they're on the right track, and they are. I want them to learn how to catch those mistakes, how to remove themselves from situations before it gets emotional, and how to take the time to reflect and adjust how they'll proceed in the future. I encourage them to talk to others on the leadership team, to apologize when needed, and to admit when they're wrong. These are expectations I like to set from the beginning, yet we can only expect employees to act accordingly when we provide an environment where they feel they have the support system to back them up. Rather than simply finding themselves in trouble, they have others around them to help them learn and improve. In those moments of introspection, they can ask, what were my thoughts while the incident was occurring? What got me here? How will I do things differently? The goal is self-discovery and understanding why things went wrong. It's an accelerant to people becoming better employees and better leaders. You'll see your employees stretching themselves further than they ever did before. An empowered team. You can tell it's working when you see a cohesive team, when you have a workforce of people with varying titles and authorities who all feel empowered. They step up, they trust their gut, and they make calls with full confidence. The only way to be a great decision maker is to make a lot of decisions, and it's up to leadership to create the atmosphere for this to happen. Excellent support manifests itself into the employees, their actions, their confidence. You'll see it in the way they make decisions. Even in situations where they don't have the answer, they own that, and they seek to find out. Excellent support brings us back to the main focus, improving growth and development, providing clarity in the workplace, and strengthening the commitment to the company vision. So close, yet so far. You can have vision and clarity, but without support, you have a problem. I was recently at an establishment that makes health smoothies. Their entire cash register system went down in the middle of my transaction. People behind me were waiting, ready to order. In the moment, they were trying to figure out what to do. Apparently, it's a common problem with these systems, and the owner's lack of upkeep, technology-wise, wasn't helping avoid problems. What were they going to do? They started handing out free smoothie cards as a way to show they were sorry. Unfortunately, I wanted the smoothie, not a card. I sensed something odd and asked if they were capable of making the smoothies. They admitted they weren't. Well, they had a few basic recipes memorized. They didn't know the others without being able to reference the main system. In the moment, they were wanting to give customers free smoothies for their trouble, but because they didn't have the information needed to physically make the correct recipes, they could not. The support they needed, a book or menu to keep them on track, was missing, so the system was down. The general manager, the only one with knowledge of all the recipes, wasn't present, and there was no other backup reference. This team had no way of producing a quality product for ready customers. Furthermore, they had no way of taking a payment. In fact, they'd participated in community events before and had the necessary gadgets, like Square, but they didn't keep them in the store. The support they needed was so close, yet unavailable to them in the moment they needed it most. There's support in the way a team wants to be supported, but there's support in the sense of, if you need something, call me. The latter wasn't going to help them. What they needed was a backup in place and the knowledge of protocol when the main system was down. If this store's leader had asked their team what they needed, or if they'd run them through scenarios of what could go wrong, they could have prevented this uncomfortable situation. With a strategy in place, a business runs smoothly. Customers wouldn't even know when things were different. What was lacking for my smoothie joint was the culture of support. Employees knew the vision. They wanted to make customers happy. They had an idea of what they needed to do. Unfortunately, support was not in place to do so effectively. Don't let this happen in your company. Vision, clarity, support. If any of the three are missing, the entire structure crumbles. You've made it this far into the 3 pillars for a reason, and hopefully you're already taking action to implement and ensure vision, clarity, and support are established and running strong in your workplace.